the pirates. Oh, he's in a playful mood? All right, stay where you are. We're coming over to run herd on him. Franklin's snicked wife, Cheria, states, and the call is hung up on. Why are they coming running on the idea that you're in a playful mood? Jean-Luc asks Franklin, even as the ship around them is churning with activity. Apparently, the first proper thing to do was to send in sweeping, low-power scanning drones into the archaeological site and get a full reading of not only the layout of everything as it is in an undisturbed state, but to not disrupt the axiom flows, just in case there's some kind of axiom artifact. It takes 10 minutes for the increasingly distracted and bored Franklin to shift his position on the chair from sitting to straddling with his arms over the back of it. He had also unlocked it from its static position and was slowly spinning. Why are you so excited? You're downright bouncing in your seat, Jean-Luc observes as Franklin starts spinning the other way. This is interesting, very interesting, and I don't have the qualifications to go in. This is neat, this is new, this is something I want to take a look at, and I can't, Franklin says before taking a deep breath. Screw it. If I can't do anything, I'll nap until I can. Then he just lets his feet drag on the floor and props up his upper body against the back of the chair and just stops. Jean-Luc just stares for a moment before turning away. Is he really that immature? Professor Valiance demands, and Jean-Luc shrugs. He's different, knows he's different, and while he can certainly accommodate normal people, it's not comfortable, it's not natural, and it's not easy for him. When I was a child, I would restrain myself, quiet myself, and be ashamed to be heard by others, hoping to be a man, for I feared many things. Franklin says as he opens his eyes and sits upright again. When I grew to be a man, I put aside my fears, including the fear of being heard, being seen, or being childish. You massively butchered that quote, Jean-Luc states. And what quote was that? Something about fairy tales and being 50? Jean-Luc asks, and Franklin snorts in amusement. I think it was from C.S. Lewis, about self-awareness, Franklin notes. There's no point in my hiding who and what I am. It will only exhaust me, drain me, limit me, and reduce what use I have. I am odd, I am different, and I am unashamed. For what is there to be ashamed of? The trouble and annoyance you cause? Professor Valiance asked. Yet I have learned from them, so why be ashamed? Oh, have you? You went directly into the site despite knowing that you could taint it, and proved that there was no immensely hostile creature there, as there was in the last site. What? Professor Valiance asks. We got onto this archaeology binge due to finding a hidden laboratory that contained numerous dangerous secrets, including extremely deadly recreations of ancient wildlife. They were active, hostile, and hungry, Jean-Luc says. Frankie boy here was on the team that was spelunking the dangerous part, as the rest of us either scanned the place for another entrance or stood by in case either team needed backup. I see, so you're expecting monsters? Well, we had a genetically modified super soldier with the body and mind of an infant and no idea how screamingly deadly she was. Roughly a dozen super predators with massive appetites, and we're not particularly picky about where the food came from, Franklin remarks. Oh, and we also rescued a prisoner. Do you always find things happening? Should I be getting ready to run? Yes, Franklin replies with a grin. Not from you, the responsible one. The mad bomber is the responsible one, Franklin demands as Jean-Luc just starts laughing. Then he starts outright howling as Franklin demands, What is my life? How the hell did you two end up in charge of anything? We easily slaughtered every threat to Vuxa, both foreign and domestic, before helping usher in an age of peace and prosperity? Jean-Luc asks, and she just stares for a moment. It's true, I personally saw to it that the majority of the medical equipment that we didn't sell to Allied, Undaunted, and other parties from the last few major attacks were distributed evenly across most of the world's hospitals. We've got organ cloning vats in every community over 10,000 strong now, Franklin says, and Jean-Luc nods. Not to mention the ships we scrapped fully were done with a lot of thermite to properly chop them up so the hulls could be repurposed into buildings, shelters, or just better fit into processing plants for new product the world over. Or Jean-Luc adds, You did good work with that. Franklin compliments him and he waves it off. I just supervised, Until you initiate thermite, it's just dirt and harmless. They were able to place the packages where they need to be, and I just walked around to prime them all to go off. I didn't even pull the trigger on the initiation sequence. Jean-Luc dismisses. Because rigging a massive warship to be sliced into bitty pieces at the pull of a trigger isn't impressive. Professor, we're getting the first outlines on the site, a student calls out, and Valiance rushes off to the screens, leaving Franklin and Jean-Luc just there. Do you have any idea how much I want to see that screen? She'll chase you down with a knife if you start fucking with things. Jean-Luc counters and Franklin sighs as he starts messing around with the chair again and finds the lever to let it recline. Jean-Luc takes a step away as Franklin reclines the chair flat and gets it slowly turning as he's face down in it. You're a child, still the best axiom adept on the planet. Just play with your communicator. No. Why not? I've had enough of it. Jesus Christ, I'm not your damn babysitter. Jean-Luc says before walking away in disgust. It takes several more minutes before an airbike soars over the horizon line and a snicked woman with a grin on her face touches down next to the vehicle. Ma'am, I don't know who you are, but this area is under the authority of Galrana University and... Professor Valiance begins, and Sharia flits to the side and moves past her. Relax, I'm not interested in old caves and dusty bones, the mech trooper says as she steps past and leans over to loom above Franklin. Getting bored there? Yes, there are so many things to do, but if I do anything, I ruin it, Franklin says, shifting himself to sit upright. Come on then, let's burn away that energy and keep you out of trouble, Sharia says, and he rises up with her. Is she his wife or caretaker? Professor Valiance demands. He has his struggles, and he has his advantages. You want to soar in the stars, you have to maintain the ship, Sharia replies. If I don't go into the site, will you refrain from doing anything silly, like enrolling me just to flunk me? Franklin asks her, and Sharia turns to regard the Dren woman with a baffled expression. Your grades are safe, you very, very silly man. Of course I'm silly. If I took everything seriously, I'd have broken by now. Implying you're not broken in some way, Jean-Luc insults him. Broken in a way that can't be recovered from. Implying that an Undaunted wouldn't find a way to bounce back, Jean-Luc asks. Okay, now I'm lost. Are you trying to make fun of me or build me up? Franklin asked. Yes, Jean-Luc answers. I hate normal people. He's not normal. He's a super soldier, man. I'm normal, Sharia protests. No, you're not. You're a pirate gone legit. That's abnormal, Franklin answers. The closest thing to normal here is a professor. Do not drag me into this. You're already aging me years on the minute, Professor Valiance says, walking past them. I know I don't have the authority to throw you two off, especially as one of you technically owns this territory and the other is more force of nature. But get the hell off my vehicle. I have work to do. All right, I'm going, Jean-Luc says, pulling out a Kutha chain from his pocket and slowly going down the links with his thumb. There we are. He focuses Axiom through the link 4 up from the bottom, and he vanishes in a teleport that was perfectly streamlined from the chain, but clumsy on his part. Let's go. If you're already bouncing, then we can do something else with it today, Chiria says, and Franklin nods as he exits the chair. He then pats himself down and flips a Kutha coin towards Professor Valiance. If something happens and you need backup right then and there, run Axiom through it from the center. I'll be there, but I won't be subtle about it. So, yeah, Franklin says before heading out and walking towards Shiria's bike. He's a good person, a very good person. He just doesn't connect to others easily. I really don't understand him. He has rules he tries to never break. He keeps his word, he helps when he's asked, he tells the truth, and he finishes what he starts. He doesn't think he's done here. He also knows that he's not helping. So he's stepping away as you've asked, but it's not done. He suspects danger, so you have a way to call him back, just in case. I'm still annoyed. I've smacked him upside the head with the flat of my blade arms a few times. I get it. He can be frustrating, but he's good, Sharia says, and Professor Valiance nods before pocketing the coin. Very well. Now, if you'll please vacate the premises, we're about to engage in underwater mode and begin creating an entry point to the site. So where did this archaeology interest come from? Chiria asks as she and Franklin watch the flying platform slowly lower itself into the water, its force field keeping the ocean at bay as the students are a flurry of activity. Remember the... Is this about Indiana Jones? Kinda. You think they're going to run into something like the Ark? No, but we have run into some pretty neat stuff already. Mummified super soldier failures, a living success, the baseline of the soldiers, and the primeval animals they were using as the added mixture to her DNA. That's cool stuff. And what would I tell the hatchlings if you got yourself killed chasing adventure? Somehow reality stopped being realistic and Daddy died? He'll be back around dinner? Franklin offers, and he gets a playful swat in the ribs for that one. What? You can't come back from the dead. That's not what Emmanuel told me. Just because another Undaunted did something stupid impossible doesn't mean you can just pull it out of a hat, Chiria states. Pretty sure I can, Franklin says as he watches the platform lower further into the water and is already slowly compressing the water under them to move it out of the way. We're not following them down, Chiria states, but leave the poor scholars alone. They can't handle you, Chiria says before glancing down and smirking. But I haven't seen much of an underwater world. Care to keep a shield going? In response, Franklin pumps power into a round shield surrounding them, and Chiria drops the bike downwards and into the water. In mere moments, they're below the level the professor and her students are at, and the colors start to wash away as the water filters out the light. Red goes first, followed by orange, yellow, then green, leaving both of them mostly blue as they reach the level just above the seafloor. In the distance, both of them can make out the university group heading for the trench where the entrance can be found and sinking out of sight. Do you really think something will happen, or are you just paranoid? I honestly can't tell. It could be paranoia, and it's usually right to hope for paranoia. But I don't think it is. We have no way of knowing what's in that lab, and to be frank, if the last one was any example at all. Good point. Think we should have some backup on standby? Just in case? Yes, but only volunteers. This should be a break day considering the crawl we had yesterday. I wasn't talking about your fellow men, Chiria says, and he chuckles. Sorry, they're kinda my go-to assumption for things like backup. They're your team. I was thinking about mine. A swarm of mechs ready to swoop in is a good thing whenever a situation starts to get bloody. Sounds good,